Well, hi, we're Dave and Phyllis Carroll. My wife Phyllis of 45 years, a little over 45 years. About 40 years ago, after the birth of our second child.
46 years, excuse me, I'm Phyllis. 46 years and counting.
Well, you see, there you go. That's why you have a wife, she can correct you. Anyways, after the birth of our second child, Daryl, about a little over 40 years ago, Phyllis was diagnosed with a disease called lupus. And we were very fortunate. We had a good doctor, got her diagnosed and started a program for her. And over the years, we managed to manage the symptoms through a various number of diets and processes, but eventually, like most of these autoimmune diseases, and lupus specifically, it ground her down to the point where a little over 3 years ago she took her first ambulance ride. And her symptoms, and this disease is, along with a lot of the other autoimmune diseases, are difficult to diagnose, but this one in particular is often called the disease of 1,000 faces because it has so many different symptoms. And we have a list of symptoms here that Phyllis experienced, some of them in varying degrees. There's 18 of them. And so if you are having this disease diagnosed for you and you're having a challenge, these are some of the things that Phyllis experienced. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about her story and the amazing recovery, because over the last 3 years now, with a combination of 3 ingredients, she has basically been pain-free and able to return to a normal life working again, whereas she had been virtually bedridden before that. So Phyllis, the symptoms of this disease, we got the first one here listing persistent fatigue. I remember when you first crashed about, 7-8 years ago, really started a downward spiral that you became very, very tired. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yes, and it was very tired. In fact, 12 to 14 hours isn't what I had. I would sleep for 2-3 days and get up and still be very, very tired.
Along with that, you had persistent fevers and body sweats. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, anybody with lupus will know that you always have a low-grade fever, and it's always there. And unfortunately, I still have that, but not as severe as it was.
So with the low-grade fever, it caused rashes in the folds in your skin and whatnot?
Well, yeah, in the joints and so forth, and in your little chubby areas.
Another one of the symptoms that was fairly prominent with you was nosebleeds. Can you talk a little bit about your nosebleeds?
Always nosebleeds, and I don't know why, and the doctors don't know why, whether it was the medication that would do it, or for some reason if I bent my head down, or I would even wake up in the middle of the night and my pillow would be soaked. I don't know what caused them, and the doctors never did know. But in the last 3 years, I probably have had 2 nosebleeds. And it was mainly caused by hitting myself or for whatever reason, blowing your nose, or your nose gets dry in the wintertime, or whatever.
Not like before.
No, it wasn't a nosebleed as before. Before it would just pour.
Okay, also recurrent pain in your joints developed into arthritis, and this is one of the things that your doctors diagnosed you with, was arthritis, as well as fibromyalgia and a few other symptoms that we're going to talk about. Can you touch a little bit on arthritis and how your joints felt?
Well, very, very painful. I mean, to walk or move around, or anybody that has arthritis will know that it is painful to some degree. Now it's there, and of course your fingers deform, and I have a few toes that are deformed and so forth, but
it's not as painful as it used to be, though. You
no.
notice it and it's there, but it's not.
No.
It's not really painful.
No, unless you bump it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know that it's still there. It's just kind of a wake-up call that I'm still here, I'm not gone too far.
You bet. Another diagnosis that the doctors made on you was fibromyalgia, and your swollen joints and your pressure points. Can you talk a little bit about the pain of that? Because it seems to me, I remember I couldn't even bump you like that and you would jump like you just did, but you're jumping for a different reason now. But,
yeah, because I didn't know you were going to hit me.
Hit her.
But anyway, it was very, very painful. In fact, to the point where I couldn't keep a blanket on me, so I had a special little blanket that I would pack all over with me. Fibromyalgia, as most people will know, is pressure points in your back and wherever you have pressure points, and out of that, the pressure points, I had 11 that could not be touched. The inside of my arms and through here, and the inside of my knees, I couldn't touch them. I mean, just to go like this, I would know that something was happening. It was like being slapped or having a lot of pressure on it.
So that was a lot of pain as well.
It was very painful.
Yeah. Another thing was persistent and worsening deep leg muscle cramps, and that's what led to your first ambulance ride, was some of this neuropathy that was happening in your system.
Yes.
Can you talk about the muscle cramps at night and that?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was very painful. You couldn't move, you couldn't turn, you couldn't move your leg a certain way, and you would have the cramps happening, and very, 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 very painful. And it's like I would be up all night, either putting it in, wrapping cold around, which seemed to help. It kind of I don't know, confused the situation from heat to cold.
Yeah, because I remember at times you just jumping out of bed with these muscle cramps and walking and trying to stretch them out, but they are basically gone now as well, right?
They're pretty well gone. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, another main symptom that was again deteriorating as you progressed was your chest pains and your breathing issues. Can you talk a little bit about your shortness of breath and your pleurisy type symptoms?
Well, I would always have reoccurring pleurisy in the spring and in the fall, and of course it's like 1 minute you're fine, and the next minute it's like somebody sitting on your chest because it was so painful, and it would be about 3 or 4 days and it would go away. But it was always when there was severe weather change, and of course we do have a lot of weather change. We live in Alberta.
That's right. So the other one that was a main thing for you, it seemed like you lived with a chronic consistent headache. Can you talk a little bit about the headaches?
Oh yes, constantly headaches. Every time, it was always there. I've always had a headache. It was always there. Some days it would be worse than others, but it was like everything else, it's always there, but at times it's worse than at other times, but it's always there.
Right. Well, there's about another 6 or 7 symptoms that we will write up and put on the website for those that are interested to take a look at. For the purpose of time, we won't discuss them right now, but they were the less serious ones, but still things that bothered Phyllis. Now, the interesting thing about all of this is that all of these symptoms of various diseases were as a result of inflammation in her body. And even her ANA blood marker for lupus, which she had tested positive for a number of years, after being on these combined products for a short period of time, her ANA blood marker came back as a negative, where it had always been a positive. Other subsequent tests for ENA and other more sophisticated tests showed that she still has the lupus antibodies in her, but it's all about managing symptoms. And that's the beautiful thing is, you know, Phyllis's pain is for most part gone, and she's returned to a normal life where she could hardly leave the house before. She's now taken on a part-time job, and she's a very active gal and loves being out and about. Can you talk a little bit about your energy levels now, Phyllis, whereas I know you used to be really low-grade energy before?
Well, my energy level is way up there. I usually wake up at, I get up at between 4 and 4:30. I go to work for 6. I work from 6 only till 11. It's a short time, but I still have a lot of energy. And after that I paint and
yeah, pretty amazing, because where Phyllis was a little over 3 years ago, you wouldn't recognize the same lady now. I mean, Phyllis isn't a complainer. You know, we've had a beautiful relationship over the years, and it was really heartbreaking to see her deteriorate. And one morning I remember her getting up and talking about if this was the rest of her life with the pain that she was enduring on a daily basis, she really didn't want to go on.
And that's right, and I really, really didn't. People, you know, when you're sick and they look at you and they say, but you look so good. And that was the big thing. Oh, people kept saying, well, you look so good. But I couldn't walk. I could hardly walk. My knees and my ankles were completely swollen. Some days I could put shoes on, some days I couldn't. The pain was always there, and I mean, it was very severe.